So today I wanted to spend some time going over some of the mistakes that I have made in this journey of becoming a plant person, in the hopes that you don't make the same mistakes that I did. Some of them are relatively minor, others are quite dramatic, so we'll see how we go. There's not too much to cover, but hopefully it will help someone else out there in the universe. The first thing I did wrong was, from the offset, spending too much time and money thinking about pots, especially decorative pots. To be clear, you can get, I should have brought a prop, and actually I do have a prop. You can get plants like so. This is a debut of this plant on the channel. It's the newest plant I just bought, and it's maybe my favorite, but that's not what we're talking about here today. When you buy a plant, in most cases, it will come in a plastic pot, which if I can remove this safely, a plastic pot like so, and often people put them in decorative pots, which are often ceramic, or some people just leave them in the plastic pots and put those pots on a tray or something so that the water doesn't drip through. Or other people have opt for terracotta like this, where you just plant directly into the pot. I'm moving my whole setup, I'm not sure why, in the first 2 minutes of this video. All of that to say that when I first started, I was trying to really think about the aesthetic of it all, and it just felt like to complete the purchase of a plant, you need to give it a nice pot to put it in. Wrong. And I really don't think that that's the case anymore. I used to think that having the plastic pot exposed and putting it on a tray was like incomplete, but I don't think that at all anymore. One, I got way too many plants to be thinking about the pot-plant pairings all the time, and I also am a bit of which is one of my other points, I'm a bit of an obsessive repotter. So just when I get everything aligned and get the right pots and decorative pots matched up and stuff, I'm going to want to repot and have to shuffle things around anyway. So honestly, I think it was just overall wasted energy, wasted money, wasted time. But that's not to say I don't like buying decorative pots. But I think the mistake I made was kind of obsessing of trying to make sure that every single plant had a nice decorative pot that was the right size, the right style, that suited the plant, it suited the area it was in, all of those things. And now I kind of just do whatever. For example, this pot, I really like it and I think it really suits this plant and it suits where it is. But I'm not gonna stress if I need to repot this plant to find a new pot that now matches the new vibe. And I have several plants now that just live in the plastic pots on a tray, and I'm not stressed about it. It's just there doing its thing, still growing fine. So why stress yourself when you don't have to? That's kind of my philosophy, at least on that regard. Actually, that's my philosophy for life, and it just leads into this part of my life. Point number 2 was, let me check my notes. I wrote in my notes, treating a low water plant as a no water plant. By that I mean, if you've seen the video, which I'll put on the screen here, where I neglected and abandoned my snake plant. Pretty much those plants, I think, have a bit of reputation, which maybe it's just my misunderstanding, misinterpretation of what people mean when they say that, of them being super low maintenance and not requiring watering very frequently. But I think I took that a step too far and took that to mean that these plants don't need water at all over the span of, I think, like 3-4 months. That was too much. And the results show themselves because the plant really started to decline. And I think particularly with snake plants, if the leaf starts to go soft/mushy or wilt, it's a wrap. Those leaves are not coming back. It's not like what's another good example of a plant? It's not like a succulent where the leaves go soft and then when you give them water, they perk back up. No, with a snake plant, if it starts to lean, that leaf's gone, finish. So the mistake I made there was taking the low water to an extreme, and I wouldn't do that again. I would say, for me, in my case, I'm not speaking for you, I'm speaking for myself, that all of my plants need water at least once a month, even if it's just a bit. So that's my kind of rule of thumb. I don't go lower than that. Of course, I try to respond to the environment and the season and the plants and the needs and blah, blah, blah. But once a month, I think, is kind of a minimum, just to make sure everybody's good. So that's my point on that. The third point I wanted to mention was I was going to say I used to be, but it's not true. I'm not reformed. I'm not delivered. Repotting obsessively. Now, I don't know what it is, right? But it's a bit of a personality thing. This is not a therapy session, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. But I have a little bit of a habit of trying to make things kind of fit together as I believe that they should, and that's I think one of the reasons, actually, which is a side point, maybe why I find plants so interesting, because there's a bit of a science to it, a bit of an art form to it, but I feel like I'm trying to kind of adjust certain things and see what works best, and seeing what things work with other things. So I could put this plant in this room with this light, then if I move it, or I water it more or water it less, it grows more or less. It's like I get to play around and see what different things work, which I think is why I enjoy it. But the point is, another element of that is repotting, because one of the reasons I got into plants was I heard about this magical thing called propagating. And when I figured out or found out that you could get free plants, I was hooked. My stomach is going, I hope you can't hear that. It had me hooked, and then the idea of like repotting a plant and then like taking out the bits that are growing, additional bits that are growing to make new plants, that just fascinated me, and that whole cycle was interesting to me. But also the idea that, okay, there's at a certain point a plant needs an upgrade and to go to a bigger pot, give it room to expand. That, I don't know, at first I was a bit, I don't know if nervous is the right word, but when I first repotted, it was a big deal. But ever since then, I'm like, who needs to repot? Do you want to go right now? We can do it right now if you want to. I can do it right now. And so I repot quite frequently. Doesn't always end well though. Let me tell you something. It does not always end well. And that is the sad case of my Alocasia wentii. I definitely upgraded that plant too quickly. I think it was because it was growing a lot of babies in the same pot. So I wanted to remove some of them, put them in their own pots, and also it has quite a lot of roots. So I said, okay, cool, we're ready to go, to step it up a level. And the whole plant declined. Like, I should have, let me go and get it. Hold on. Okay, like I said, we're using whatever we have. We're not doing the decorative pots as routinely as we once did. So, I'm out of breath. So, what was I going to say about this? Right, so I will see if I have any pictures or videos or something, and I'll put it here of what this plant used to look like. But this is what it looks like now. We've got two leaves. This leaf is, I'm not too sure. I can't explain. But also you may be able to see that there are two attempted leaves that have come out that didn't really take. And then this is the actual first leaf of hopefully a new chapter where this plant does what it should be doing and is respected and treated well by me. But anyway, I say all of this to say that this is, in my opinion, the result of repotting this thing too early. I repotted it and it just freaked out, lost a lot of leaves. The leaves started drooping. I just didn't know what was wrong with it. And probably the root system in there is probably only about this deep. So again, these are all of the I think results of me repotting it too soon and just giving it a bit too much space and water and probably drowning it a little bit. So that was a mistake, and I've since repented, and that plant is not getting repotted for some time. Good. Fourth and final point is I used to treat the position of my plants as very fixed, i.e. where they were location-wise in the space. For example, if I was like, okay, this plant needs lots of light, it needs a south-facing window, I would put it in the south-facing window, and I was like, that's it, you're done, that's it, we're not moving you. But I have since, probably as a result of moving around a bit and just rearranging my whole everything, since reconsidered that that's probably not the best way of thinking about it, because ultimately it's about the amount of light the plant is getting, and that's not going to be consistent throughout the week, the year, the month. So treating the position of the plant as fixed probably doesn't necessarily suit the plant anyway, because the light's not always going to be consistent there. Plus, there's only, to me personally, there's only so much I'm willing to bend for the plants. Like, love you, but if you're in my way, you've got to go, you've got to move. I'm not giving up my bed for you just because that's where the best light is, if you get what I mean. So what I mean to say with all of this is try to experiment, or talking to myself, experiment. Try to put this plant here, moving it there, moving this there, blah, 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 and figuring out what works best for the moment. But also remember that you're probably going to reshuffle this soon anyway, because buying a new plant, a plant is declining, you need to just move other things, other furniture and stuff, means that there'll be a point in the near future where you need to rearrange anyway. So you can try and find the best situation that you can in the current moment, but don't feel like if once everything is now perfectly in its place, that's it, it's done, draw a line under it, and that's the end. Again, I think it's a personality thing where I used to think, okay, well, now we've got the optimal situation, then we're done, right? And so then bringing a new plant into the situation, or having an external factor change the stability of the situation, used to throw me off a lot, and I found that a bit unnerving. But I think that mindset has now changed for me, because I've started to realize that it doesn't have to be so fixed. And a lot of my plants have done okay in multiple different locations. And it is now very much a side note. And I'm not saying that people are lying online. I'm not calling you a liar. I'm just saying that some people's understanding of certain key terms is not consistent with others. So some people say bright indirect light, but what they view as bright indirect light is not what I view as bright indirect light. Some people don't know what bright indirect light actually is, but that's not what I'm trying to get into right now. So just figure out what works best for you, and your space and your plants, as opposed to trying to replicate someone else's setup. Oh. Well, I think we've covered everything. Should we cover some music? Let's cover some music. Honestly, the only thing that's in my brain right now is one particular song, because I listened to it literally just before I hit record, and that song is Patience by Amalu. Her album I Came Home Late has just been speaking to me of late. That was unintended, just ignore it. And that song in particular just gets me because of the way the whole energy and the beat and the theme of the song switches partway through. And I love a good head banging moment, especially when it's not constant through the song. There's a moment where you kind of focus your energy. So yeah, I just enjoy that song a lot, and it's a very good one to sort of get you pumped. Maybe if you are walking to the station on your morning commute, or you are getting ready to go out to the gym, or you are doing your hair in the morning. It's appropriate for lots of situations. And I really like the energy of that song. So I think that's my only note regarding music this time around. So let's wrap it there. I'll see you around, I suppose. Yeah, good stuff.